Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani, helping you to be more profitable. If you haven't had a chance to listen to my interview with Mike Michalowicz, check it out. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about every chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. The goal of this podcast is to help you, the business owner, understand your financial numbers so you can make better decisions. We learn about money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo jumbo, using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rear view mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this. It's not your fault. We are not taught money in school. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works. He certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more so you can focus on the parts of the business you love. And you get the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Today, we're going to talk about Profit First as a startup. And I have a special guest on, Paul Edwards, who is new to business, and he's sharing his Profit First journey and how he's able to take profit as a startup. It's quite impressive. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man Show, Paul Edwards. It's great to have you join us.
Rox, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So, for the audience, can you share a little bit about what your business is?
I'd be delighted to do that. As a matter of fact, this is one of the first chances I've got to share my 30-second elevator pitch. So here we go. I connect entrepreneurs, executives, influencers, and thought leaders with pre-qualified prospects, partners, and pathways to greater income, influence, and exposure. For those lacking time and or talent, but not treasure, to influence and persuade the market in print, I ghostwrite their thoughts in their voice into books, blogs, Alexa briefs, snippets, emails, sales letters, and other written content.
That's cool. So you make their life easier, right? We all want to get our messages out into the world, but it takes so much time and effort. And some of us, me especially, are not writers. That's why I'm on a podcast, because podcasting is easy for me. Writing is difficult. And so I found I can get my content out 10x faster if I just speak it versus trying to write it.
That's what I found. Most of the people I work with are far more talented than me, and the clock is their biggest opponent. But then there are people who you know, Rock, I would say you probably have more of a writer in than you realize, but they still, the combination of not having the practice and not having the time makes me an excellent resource for that.
And that's true. And what I have found is Grammarly has really helped me to improve myself and to at least call me out and force me to go back and edit. So that was the one thing I never did. I would never go back and edit. And I think that was the number one mistake. I realized that the best writers spend 1 hour writing and 9 hours editing, and that kind of blew my mind. But that's what it kind of takes to sound amazing. And that's why having somebody like you to help get that process through, and the payoff is time, right? And that's, I think, what we as business owners need to realize is we have precious time. We need to spend our time in the business where we bring the most value and where we most enjoy working. Because if it's not that, then business is a struggle.
Correct. And if you're not in the business of people and words like I am, everybody's in the people business. But if you're not in the specific skill set of words, then one of the best ways to get around that is to trade your money for almost like prefabricated content in your own voice, right? So you need somebody who can hear how you speak and then write in a way that is congruent with your style, that is pretty much, I would call it, done for you. You would get it. You might make a few tweaks here and there. I'll just reword this a little bit. But for the most part, you spend all of 3 or 4 minutes on it instead of several hours.
And time is extremely valuable. So that's great. How long ago did you start your business?
I started I started getting paid for it in January of this year. So I'm all of 7 months into it. Writing has been a lifelong thing for me. I've got 3 decades now going back of just being a habitual writer, but understanding how to capture a client's voice and then craft content out of it that is engaging, optimized, moves the needle, creates that kinetic energy on behalf of the client that results in sales or increased traffic, et cetera, et cetera. That's a new venture for me.
Very cool. So as part of your business plan, you decided to make profit first part of your systems. What made you choose to implement profit first as a startup?
Well, you and I are both huge fans of Aaron Walker and the Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. So there's I suppose you could call it a doctrinal side to that, right? Because we all go by it, or at least we're encouraged to. But I also took a moment, I knew nothing about business finance. Personal finance was enough of a learning curve for me growing up. So when somebody put it in the terms like, this is Dave Ramsey for your business, I said, well, then I better at least get the foundation right. And so I went and read Mike's book. And of course, as the longer I read it, the more I wanted to read it, because it's engaging and he tells a lot of interesting stories, and he's very open and honest about his own failures with finances. But also, you hear of the failure rate in business is very lopsided on the F category, right? And I just said to myself, if there's a way I can position my business so that I'm always earning a profit, no matter how minuscule it might be, then I'm going to go that route. Because number one, it will take away the false delusion that I have more disposable income than I actually should. And number two, it's going to set in motion a habit that when, as I grow towards the goals that I have for it, has the capacity to, on a regular basis, pay out enormous rewards to all the people who help me to make the vision happen. That is a really core value for me, is radical generosity. And so, maybe some people envision buying a yacht or something with their profit. That's fine. I have nothing against that, but I don't. My vision with the profit, getting to where I want to go, is literally beginning to radically alter other people's lives with it.
And that's an important point, because I think a lot of times when you say the word profit first, everyone has this negative connotation. Oh, it's all about the money. No, it's not about the money. It's about having freedom and the ability to serve and to give back. Profit is not evil. It's an expectation of business. You don't go into business to lose money. And so if you're not in business to lose money, that means you have to be profitable. And it's the byproduct of a well-run business. And so we should be thankful for that.
Absolutely. And, that's the thing, is like, when I hear the word profit, I always go back to the scriptures, and Jesus said, what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his own soul? And so, I love how you have used the moniker richer soul, Rocky, because of course, what I have found when I profit, when I have an abundance to, some of it I use to spend on improving little bits and pieces of my business. I bought some newer technology. I bought some new furniture. Yeah. Okay, fine. But a lot of it, I've just given away. And the unsuspecting people, who benefit from that, you just can't the way it enriches my soul is very much in line with what I think your entire show and your content and everything that you teach is all about.
And very much that is the case.
The other thing that comes to mind for me, Rocky, and not everybody thinks this way. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody who doesn't. I'm just explaining what's in my heart. And that is that you mentioned that there's enough. And I have made a determination ahead of time that no matter how big my business grows, I know what amount equals enough for me and my family to live on. And so I am aimed at a inversion of the traditional keep 90% and tithe 10%. I want to keep 10% and tithe 90%. And part of the reason I know that I want to do that is because I've never really wielded huge amounts of money. I know the combination of anxiety and seduction and temptation and disturbing of my spiritual gravity that I'm likely to encounter if I get my hands on that kind of money and it's not already committed elsewhere. So as I build my company, that's part of what I'm enshrining in bylaws and stuff like that is the visionary chief executive that I am. There's an unchanging cap on what I can earn personally for income, so that everything else that could go to me as income automatically becomes donations to various organizations that I'm involved with, a nonprofit mastermind that I'm building for young men, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Impressive, and that's a wonderful message, especially in today's times, to be a little bit countercultural.
Well, I can just imagine somebody, if I got to the point where I had, my compensation was up to 1.5 million, what are you going to do with all that more money besides create more anxiety and weight on yourself by purchasing a larger house? I've already been there. I don't want a larger house anymore. I've already had a bigger house than I have now. The one I have now is big enough. I love fancy cars, but I'll rent one if I really want to drive it. I'm not going to keep one in the garage, And I like to go on vacations and all that. I mean, there's really fancy places you can go, but I'm not paying that much to go there. I don't care how nice it is. I mean, if you want, tens of thousands of dollars a night to stay there, I'm going to an Airbnb in Mexico, and that's good enough for me. So,
and I've done much the same in my life. We chased the American dream, and I realized enough was enough, and I decided to get off of that rat race. And now I just do what I love, and I enjoy my days, and I have zero stress because I know what enough is. And so I think we're very much on the same page there.
Amen.
So people all have the question, you're starting your business. Everyone's taught reinvest, reinvest, reinvest. But instead, you chose to take money out of the business. So you've actually taken profit distributions from your business that's essentially 7 months old. Is that correct?
Yep. I've had 2 successful quarters back to back and pushing here into my third and continuing to add to my profit account. And the first time I was able to get myself, I was able to give. And then I was able to get myself, it's not that you don't spend any money on yourself or your family, right? It's ultimately I want to be able to take my family out for a nice dinner in the Space Needle or something. We live near Seattle. But I 2 successful quarters, and both of those I've been able to give, and then to get some gifts and give some gifts to clients, and stuff like that, to thank them for doing business with me and not incur any additional expenses that way.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what advice do you have for our listeners with how to look at their numbers and how to take their profit distributions?
Well, I love how Mike sets it up so that if all you can put in your profit account is 1% of your gross, that's better than nothing, right? If you get to the end of a quarter and all you could sock away was 1%, you're still going to have an X amount of dollars disposable, right? However you choose to use it. Now, I started with that, but I didn't stay there. Quickly, I started saying to myself, ideally, you want to get into a double-digit profit margin, and so that's what I've worked towards. And it didn't occur to me. I wasn't really sure at the outset what I should do with it. I just kept adding to it, and sooner or later, you and I got on the phone, and that was when you mentioned to me, yeah, the idea is that you do a quarterly distribution. And so the first time I had about, $600 in my profit account. And so I took out 300 of it. This time I had about 1,400. And so I took out 750 or 700. And so now, we're just starting the quarter and I'm close to 1,400 right now. And I've still got, July? So I've still got the rest of July plus, I've still got August, all of my income from August to add to that. And so it's compounding over time.
And that it does. And compounding is big because it starts to really start the snowball. And if you're going in the right direction, which is building wealth versus building debt, having that positive compounding is a wonderful effect, especially when it happens in the background and you don't miss the money. You don't even notice it. And I think that's one of the most important reasons as a startup is to do this is because you never get used to the money. You never get used to spending it. And then it just becomes an automatic habit and you don't think about it and you just build wealth, which is what the outcome is, and how you choose to spend your wealth is your choice. You've chosen to bless people with it, and that's a wonderful thing to do. Do you have plans to tweak your percentages higher over time?
I don't see why I shouldn't, because ultimately, part of where I see this going, Rock, is turning it into passive. Appreciating investments that I can then either liquidate and give away large percentages of the proceeds, or I should say, take other parts of it and begin to compound our personal family savings, our life savings over time. But unlike that being dependent on a job that where you depend on an employer to match your contribution to your IRA, I'm in control of how much I put in those retirement accounts or, passive investments. And so I guess the short answer to your question is yes, but that's a roundabout way of explaining how my mind thinks about it.
And we each have our own desires and outcomes, and you should figure out what works for you and then implement the plans that allow you to do that. Do you feel bad that you are not reinvesting all your money in the business? Because that's what everyone feels tempted to do.
Well, I guess, at some point, maybe there'll be something where I feel like I should do that. The nice thing about what I do is I'm here in my home, in front of a computer writing content all day. Now I'm building a team, right? I'm adding remote freelancers and support staff and all that kind of thing. Those things are beginning to materialize for me. But I don't see a huge need, based on how I do what I do, for a formal office building where everybody meets. I think the nature of my business is going to be non-geographic. And if that's the case, I don't, other than the only reinvestment I would really see myself doing is just spoiling the hell out of my team, buying them newer, fancier equipment to do their jobs and saying, no strings attached. I mean, This is just because you do a good job. Of course, I want to incentivize you to continue doing one, but that's not what this is about. This is just because I don't want the traditional, it's all about me and how much money I can personally take from it kind of culture in my business. I just couldn't be less interested in doing things that way.
And I think Mike has the same culture, as do I. There is enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you need to be content for where you're at. And when you do things this way, you don't get on that crazy hamster wheel of chasing and chasing. And so it's always nice to be able to do that. If people would like to find you and connect or use your services, what's the best way for them to see and learn more about what you do?
Well, I've got a book coming out. If you would like to take advantage of that, I'm giving it away free plus shipping. And you can go to the Paul S. Edwards, S as in Simon, paulsedwards.com. And there'll be a little red button that pops up there. You can sign up to be on that list, and would be happy to connect with you that way. I'm also on all the major social media channels under the Paul S. Edwards.
And I will put some of those links in the show notes so people can find you. Thanks you so much for joining us today. Clearly, profit is a habit, and there's no better time than today to begin taking a profit. Otherwise, it will be a future event that never occurs. I'm going to make this simple for you. At the end of each month, figure out how much cash you collected, take 1% of it, and put it in a separate account, and label that account profit. That's it. One simple action step. 3 months from now, I want you to increase it by 1% and keep increasing it every quarter. It's really that simple. The bottom line is you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. You've got to focus on the bottom line. And I know you're smart enough to do that. If you don't want to deal with it, though, have me do it, because you have your zone of genius and want to focus there. I only have a few coaching slots open, and it takes time. So don't wait, or you may end up on the waiting list. I usually work with business owners who are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. There's a scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar to see if I can help you. The call is free. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. Let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Let's thrive and grow. Have a profitable week.